stuff at the Pottery Barn. Now, this is all clearly racist, is it not? What do you mean it's not racist? What do you mean race has nothing to do? Race has everything to do with this. And you, of all people, should know this. Like James Clyburn, the Congressional Black Caucasians, they tell us that blacks, African Americans, no way going to get a photo ID. It is racist. It is a way for government to get a handle on who African Americans are so they can be identified and kicked out of their houses. It's a way for government to identify African Americans so that they're thrown out of their houses and onto the front curb or wherever else they can find to live. The Democrats and the leftists, they tell us over and over and over that we cannot have voter ID because African Americans can't get photo ID. Because if they get photo IDs, it means the government, which is out to get them in the first place, is then going to be able to get them. This has been the number one reason why we do not have voter ID. If we had photo ID for voting, do you realize how much of this fraud might end up being worthless? If we had a way to tie every vote to the person who cast it. Now this is the real reason why we don't have photo ID for voter ID is because it'd be much more difficult for the left and the Democrats to cheat. So what do? They don't say it has anything to do with that. No. They are protecting their constituency group. They're protecting us. Believe me, they've got African Americans believing, especially those who are more elderly. They really believe that the government's out to get them, and they're not going to go pose for a photo. That's going to be used on a voter ID card. It just isn't going to happen. They're not going to do it. And of course, who's going to object? Because if you object, what are you? You are a racist. So nobody's going to object to it. That's why we don't have voter ID. So, I have a question. Does that mean that African Americans cannot get COVID-19 tests? It does. They can't get COVID-19. Well, you tell me African Americans can get a COVID-19 test? Well, you have to show a photo ID that's... Black people go to Pottery Barn? I figured that. Black people have surgery, right? If black people, then they have to show photo ID, which means they can get photo ID. You need to have photo ID to get eye surgery. Black people get eye surgery. They do. Black people have driver's licenses. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. I thought African Americans would not, in any way, on any form of ID, allow their photo to appear. You think James Clyburn has a photo ID? You gotta be kidding me. The former president of the Congressional Black Caucasians has a photo ID? We won't let anybody else have it. What about colonoscopy? You need a photo ID to go get a colonoscopy. African Americans get colonoscopy. Okay, look. What you're telling me is that for virtually everything in life that African Americans need or wish to have or do, that they have a photo ID that will allow them to have or do it. You telling me that you got to show a photo ID when you buy cigarettes? Is that only African Americans? Well, everybody has to do that, including African Americans. Well, I'm puzzled. I'm totally surprised, shocked, and stunned here, because I was under the belief that African Americans simply refused to pose for any kind of a photo that's going to end up on any kind of an ID card. So Then explain to me why. I mean, African Americans vote, do they not? Oh, so explain to me why we can't have photo ID on voter ID cards, if everybody else. I mean, I'm required to show a photo ID when I go vote. And African Americans aren't, apparently, because they don't have. No, they don't have. That's the whole point here. If you order takeout at a restaurant, or if you order anything from a store, you go pick it up. Rather than not having delivery, you go pick it up. You have to show a photo ID there. I'm just telling you, I'm just confused. And I can't make sense of all of this.